Have you ever felt like your prayers were just bouncing off the ceiling? Like you were talking into an empty room, and no matter how much you begged, hoped, and pleaded, nothing seemed to change. Maybe you're facing a mountain right now, a health crisis, a financial setback, or a broken relationship, and you've been told to pray, but you're starting to wonder if prayer even works. What if I told you that the problem isn't the prayer, but our approach to it? What if prayer is less about asking for a miracle, and more about unleashing the supernatural power already available to you? In this series, we're going to unlock the secret to a life of powerful prayer. A life where you don't just hope for change, but become a catalyst for it. We're going to move beyond the religious rituals and dive into a living, breathing relationship with Jesus that transforms everything, turning your quiet moments with God into a force that shakes the earth. Get ready to tap into something so incredible, so tangible, that it will forever change the way you see your circumstances and yourself. This isn't just another sermon, it's an invitation to a revolution. You know, there's this incredible, universal truth that's been woven into the fabric of human experience since the beginning of time. We've all seen it. It's that deep, undeniable need to connect with something bigger than ourselves. You might call it prayer, a conversation with the divine, or simply a moment of quiet reflection, but the essence is the same. It's the moment we realize we don't have all the answers, and honestly, that's okay. Think about it. Prayer isn't just a ritual or something you do when you're in a pinch. It's a vital lifeline, a real connection to the source of all things. When we talk about prayer, we're not just talking about something spiritual. We're talking about a tangible or transformative power that can change the very air you breathe. It's the kind of power that brings heaven's reality crashing into our earthly one, and that's where the supernatural begins to happen. Just look at the life of Jesus. For instance, he showed us what this looks like time and time again, setting the ultimate example for us to follow. Jesus' life was a masterclass in this very principle. We see him in countless moments of prayer, both big and small, before and after a great move of God. The Bible tells us he prayed before his baptism and in difficult, desolate places. He even prayed when everything was going well. This isn't just some historical detail. It's a living blueprint for us today. The very first principle we need to grasp is this: God already knows what you need before you even say a word. So, if he already knows, why do we need to speak to him? Well, it's not to inform him, right? It's to expose our complete dependence on the only one who can truly meet our needs. It's like when Jesus asked those sick men what they wanted him to do for them. Everyone knew they were sick. The blind man couldn't see. The paralyzed man couldn't walk. Yet, Jesus still asked, giving them the chance to stand vulnerable before the God who can do all things. This act of vulnerability is the starting point, the fertile ground where a miracle is born. It's an invitation to lay it all out there and watch as the impossible becomes possible through a simple act of faith. But let's be real. Prayer is so much more than just asking for things or sharing our needs. It's about a deep, personal transformation. When we spend time in prayer, we become more like Jesus. There's this incredible quote that says, "Every time I pray, God takes something of mine and puts something of his in its place." Prayer can turn a short-tempered person into a patient one. It can make a stingy person generous. It's impossible to remain unyielding in the presence of an all-powerful God. He has a way of breaking us down, humbling our hearts, and making us vulnerable. And when that happens, something supernatural always follows. It's a bit like the old farmers who could easily tell the difference between wheat and weeds. A reporter asked them how they knew, and the farmer said, "Just wait for the wind. The weeds stand stiff, but the wheat bends easily." We often struggle in our prayer life because we have a hard time bending, humbling ourselves, and surrendering completely. But the truth is, every supernatural miracle begins with a surrendered, broken heart. Now, let's talk about a big mistake we often make. We outsource our prayer life. We treat intercession as a ministry for a select few, or we delegate it to our spouses, our mothers, or some prayer warrior at church. We get so caught up in the hustle of life that we move into new seasons without even making time for God, expecting others to pray on our behalf. While it's great to ask for prayer, it's a whole different thing to have your own secret, powerful time with God. The Bible is filled with examples of great men and women of faith who had dedicated time with God and lived lives that ordinary people couldn't even fathom. Take Joseph, for instance. He heard from heaven what no one else had heard, and because of it, he ruled in his time. Or David, who spent time tending to his father's sheep and carrying a piece of heaven with him. When he spoke, heaven manifested wherever he was. Those who have time with God govern on earth and live lives that natural men can't live. If you don't hear from heaven, you'll find yourself walking in circles, wasting time on things that don't lead to your true destiny. You'll always be looking for someone else's prophetic word, becoming a consumer instead of a child of God. You'll watch miracles happen for others, but you won't believe God will do one in your own life. You'll live in fear, but the one who hears from heaven can declare, "Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." Ultimately, prayer is the secret weapon that separates those who are shaken by life's storms from those who are unshakable. It's the difference between reacting to a bad day and being firmly rooted no matter what comes your way. Just look at King David. When he heard his son had died after he had been fasting and praying for him, he got up, changed his clothes, and moved on. He didn't stay stuck in his grief. He knew the God who had acted in the past would do it again. Job, too, lost everything, his children, his wealth. But he knew the God who gave it all in the beginning would restore it, and then some. When you spend time with God, you don't need anyone else's opinion because you carry a word released by God himself. Your faith isn't based on your feelings. It's based on what you know to be true. You know that your Redeemer lives. You know that because he lives, you can face tomorrow. You know that nothing is impossible with him. So, what are you waiting for? God is saying, "Come close to me, and I will come close to you." You see, what we sometimes call God's silence is just a response to our own passivity. The blind man in the Bible didn't stop calling out to Jesus even when the crowd tried to silence him. The more they tried to shut him up, the louder he cried out. The storms of life will try to quiet you, but you've got to cry out even louder to the one who can change your story. Your miracle is waiting. It's time to provoke your next season, to declare what God has promised. Because there is power in every word, released by those who carry the very life of God within them. Did this sermon touch your heart? Leave any amen in the comments and help us spread this word of faith. You know, it's amazing how we, as people, get so wrapped up in our own plans, our own timelines, and our own ideas of how things should go. We grab onto our dreams and goals with such a tight grip, believing that our power to control the outcome is what's going to make a miracle happen. We see a path, and we just assume it's the one we're supposed to be on, right? We've all been there, mapping out every little detail, from our careers to our relationships to our finances. And when things don't go according to our master plan, we get frustrated, we get discouraged, and we start to lose our faith. But let me tell you something. Friends, there's a much better way. There's a profound, liberating power in letting go. It's the power of surrender. The truth is, we serve a God whose plans for us are so much bigger, so much more detailed, and so much more incredible than anything we could ever dream up on our own. It's like trying to navigate across America using a hand-drawn map when you have a GPS with real-time satellite imagery. You just don't have the full picture. Our job isn't to control the route, it's to trust the navigator. And the beautiful thing is, the moment we truly surrender our plans to Jesus, that's when His perfect plan can finally unfold. Think about it like this. You have a handful of seeds. They're good seeds, full of potential. You can hold on to them, admiring them, protecting them, and telling everyone about the great harvest you're going to have. But as long as they're in your hand, they're just seeds. They're not doing anything. They can't grow. They can't become what they were meant to be. This is what it's like when we hold on to our lives, our plans, and our dreams so tightly. We're clutching the potential without allowing it to be planted. A prayer isn't just about asking for a blessing. It's also a gesture of open hands, a sign of surrender. It's us saying, God, my hands are empty. My plans are in your hands. My life is in your hands. It's in that moment of surrender that the seeds can finally be planted in the rich soil of God's will. And I'm telling you, when God plants your dreams, they don't just grow. They flourish in a way you never thought possible. That's the kind of power that comes from a life of genuine surrender. Surrender isn't a sign of weakness. It's the ultimate act of faith. It takes a whole lot of courage to say, I don't have all the answers, but I trust the one who does. We see this principle all throughout the Bible, in the lives of men and women who gave up their own way for God's way. Look at Abraham and Sarah. God told them they would have a son, a promise of a nation, but then they waited. They tried to take things into their own hands with Hagar and Ishmael, and you see how that turned out. A whole lot of complications. But when they finally let go and trusted God's timing, a miracle happened. Isaac was born, a child of promise. You see, their own plans led to frustration, but their surrender led to a generational blessing. That's a powerful lesson for us today. We can either live a life of control and frustration, or we can live a life of surrender and blessing. This isn't just about big, dramatic moments. It's about the daily choices we make. Do you surrender your finances to God, or do you worry and try to manage them all on your own? Do you surrender your fears to Him, or do you let them control you? Every single day is an opportunity to practice this simple yet profound act of faith. The truth is, so many of us are living in the natural, in our own strength, when God is just waiting to unleash His supernatural power into our lives. We're working hard to make things happen, but we're exhausting ourselves, like a car stuck in the mud, spinning its wheels. What we need is a tow truck, and that tow truck is surrender. When you lift your hands and say, God, I can't do this anymore. I surrender it all to you. Something shifts in the spiritual realm. A prayer of surrender is a key that unlocks God's vast storehouses of blessing and provision. It's like a farmer who has a perfect plot of land and a great plan for what to plant, but he's holding back, waiting for the perfect day. He might have the seed and the soil, but he's missing the most important element, the rain. It's not until he plants those seeds and surrenders them to the process that the rain can fall and the harvest can come. Don't wait for all the conditions to be perfect. Surrender your plans to God, right where you are. I'm telling you, when you learn the power of surrender, you'll start to see God move in ways you never thought possible. You'll watch as doors open that you couldn't have opened yourself. You'll see relationships healed that seemed beyond repair. You'll find a peace that makes no sense in the middle of a storm. And your faith will go from being a hopeful belief to an unshakable certainty. When you surrender, you're giving God permission to work a miracle in your life. You're giving Jesus the steering wheel, and believe me, He knows the way. The journey might not look like you expected, but the destination will be more glorious than you could ever imagine. It's time to stop fighting and start trusting. The blessings of God are not for those who can control their lives. They are for those who can surrender them to Him. When you do, your life becomes a living testament to His goodness. So, are you ready to learn about the next thing that empowers your journey? What happens when God's promises seem delayed? When you've prayed, held on to your faith, and surrendered, but the miracle you're waiting for hasn't arrived yet. We live in a culture that craves instant gratification. We want to ask for something and have it delivered by tomorrow. But the journey of faith isn't always like that. The Bible shows us, again and again, that between the promise and the manifestation, there's a waiting period. And that time, my friends, is not wasted time. In fact, it's a time of deepening. It's the season God uses to prepare us for the blessing He has for us. Think about Joseph. He had a dream of leadership as a young man, but instead of going straight to the palace, he went to prison. For years, the dream didn't change, but the process of preparation transformed him. He had to learn about humility, forgiveness, and leadership. The prison was the training ground for the throne. The truth is, the waiting period isn't a punishment, it's a classroom. God is teaching you to trust Him, to depend on Him, to understand His character, and to strengthen your faith. This is where your prayer becomes a conversation of intimacy, not just a list of requests. It's when you learn to have a relationship with Jesus that's deep enough to endure the absence of an immediate answer. This is the faith that moves mountains, not the one that waits to see the mountain move, but the one that keeps walking towards it, even if it looks immovable. It's the faith that says, I know in whom I have believed, and I am well persuaded that He is able to keep what I have committed to Him until that day. That's power. The waiting isn't about God's weakness. It's about the deepening of our faith. And that's where the true miracle happens, not just in your situation, but inside of you. Let's be real for a second. Most people give up in the waiting period. They say a prayer, they wait a little, and when the answer doesn't come on their timeline, they lose faith. But the Bible is full of examples of people who persevered. Remember the woman with the issue of blood. She could have given up after 12 years of suffering, but she kept going. She heard about Jesus and thought, if I can just touch the hem of His garment, I will be healed. She had to fight through the crowd, but she persisted. She didn't care about the time that had passed. She cared about the promise. And what happened? Her faith touched Jesus' garment, and an instant miracle happened. His power was released because her faith was persistent. Have you heard the story of Ruth? This woman went through a season of loss. She lost her husband, her brother-in-law, and was left with no hope. She could have stayed in Moab, her homeland, but she chose to go with Naomi to an unknown land, trusting in God's provision. She worked hard in the barley fields, not giving up, but persevering in the midst of her hardship. She didn't know that this small journey would lead her to meet a man named Boaz, who would redeem her and make her a part of the lineage of Jesus. Ruth's story shows us that perseverance begets favor. Her prayer wasn't answered overnight, but her faith sustained her through the whole process. And in the end, the miracle wasn't just the marriage, but the fact that she became a part of the world's salvation story. So, what is your challenge today? Maybe it's a financial situation, a relationship that seems broken, or a career that won't take off. It's easy to look at what's happening and lose faith. But the question is, what are you doing while you wait? Are you complaining, or are you preparing? Are you giving up, or are you persisting? Perseverance is the twin sister of faith. They walk hand in hand, and together, they release a power that the world can't contain. It's the power of knowing that no matter how long it takes, God is going to fulfill His promise. Our job is to keep walking, keep praying, and keep believing, because the answer is on its way. And when it arrives, you will not only receive the blessing, but you will have been transformed into a person who can handle the blessing. Your life will be a living testament that perseverance is worth it, and that the miracle happens at the right time. And now, we get to the final piece of this puzzle. Something so simple yet so incredibly powerful. We've talked about the power of prayer, the power of faith, the power of surrender, and the power of perseverance. But there's another element that can release a supernatural power you've never experienced before. It's the power of agreement. You know, we're built for community. We're not meant to walk this journey alone. And the Bible makes it clear that when we stand with someone else, in one accord, incredible things happen. Jesus Himself said it. Again, I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. That's a profound promise. It's an invitation to stop trying to fight your battles by yourself and to find someone to stand with you. It's the difference between a single voice, trying to be heard in a storm, and a chorus of voices breaking through the clouds. It's the kind of prayer that not only reaches God's ears, but activates a power that can't be denied. Think about the sheer power in this principle. It's not about finding someone to simply say, "Amen," to your request. It's about finding someone who will lock arms with you, who will carry your burden as if it were their own. It's about two people coming together and declaring, in unshakable faith, that God's word is true and that His promises will prevail. This isn't just a casual agreement, it's a spiritual one. It's the kind of agreement that says, I'll believe for your miracle even when you can't believe for yourself. We see this throughout history, from the early church where believers met and prayed together, and the place where they met was shaken, to modern-day examples of people who stood in agreement for a loved one's healing and saw a miracle happen. It's the power of a shared vision and a shared trust in Jesus. When you're standing in agreement with someone, you're not just doubling your prayer, you're multiplying your faith. This kind of agreement takes courage and vulnerability. It means you have to share your struggle, your fear, and your deepest needs with someone else. We've been conditioned to be independent, to handle our own problems, but that's a lie from the enemy to keep you isolated and powerless. The truth is, your vulnerability is a launching pad for a miracle. When you're hurting, a sincere prayer from a trusted friend can be the very lifeline you need. Think about those iconic American stories of pioneers building a barn or raising a home. It wasn't a single person doing the work. It was the whole community coming together, working in sync, sharing the load. That's what spiritual agreement looks like. You bring your effort, your faith, and your needs, and someone else brings theirs, and together, you build something that no one could have built alone. The power of Jesus works through community, not just through individuals. And you know, this principle isn't just for big, life-altering situations. It's for the everyday stuff too. Have you ever felt overwhelmed by a decision? Or faced a small challenge that just seemed too big to handle on your own? Find a prayer partner, a trusted friend, a family member, and come into agreement. I'm believing for wisdom for this decision. Will you agree with me? I'm believing for peace in this situation. Will you agree with me? When you do this, you're not just sharing a problem. You're sharing a promise. You're activating a power that changes the atmosphere around you. It's like a spiritual current that starts flowing, and when it meets a promise, it unlocks the door for a miracle. Your faith becomes their faith, and their faith becomes yours. It's a beautiful, symbiotic relationship that God designed for our benefit. This isn't about the size of the challenge. It's about the size of the God you're agreeing on. So, as you walk out from this message today, don't walk out alone. Find that person, that community, that prayer partner, and start practicing the power of agreement. There's no need to carry your burdens by yourself anymore. God wants you to walk in unity, to fight your battles side by side with your brothers and sisters. Your personal prayer life is absolutely essential, but it was never meant to be your only tool. When you combine your faith with someone else's, you're creating an undeniable force. You're telling the enemy that you're not a lone target, but part of a fortified army. And in that unity, in that agreement, God releases a supernatural power that can turn any situation around. It's time to stop doing life by yourself and start doing it with others who will stand with you. It's time to see a miracle not just because of what you've done, but because of what we've done together. It's a game changer. And there you have it. Friends, we've walked through the fundamentals of a supernatural life, from the power of prayer and unshakable faith, to the liberating power of surrender and perseverance, and finally, the undeniable force of agreement. The principles are clear. The blueprint is laid out. And now the choice is yours. Will you be a spectator, watching from the sidelines as God does miracles for others? Or will you become a participant, activating this power in your own life? It's time to stop just hearing the word and start living it. It's time to apply this knowledge and watch as your circumstances begin to align with God's promises. What mountain are you facing today that you're ready to move? What old fear are you ready to surrender? What impossible situation are you ready to believe for a miracle? I'm telling you, when you put these principles into practice, you'll start to see a transformation that goes beyond anything you could imagine. You'll move from a life of lack to a life of abundance, from a life of worry to a life of peace, from a life of financial struggle to one where you have the freedom to be generous. This is the life Jesus came to give you, a life with purpose, with power, and with hope. It's time to take control of your spiritual life, to apply the principles we've discussed, and to walk in the power you were always meant to have.